Welcome everyone to the Season 4 Mythic Plus Guide to Preservation Evoker. My name is UT, and in this video, Volk and I will be covering topics such as our Season 4 tier set, talents, gameplay, stats, trinkets, bullion consumption, embellishments, and some general questions as well. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to post them here in the comment section. Without further ado, let's get right into it. With this upcoming season, talent has risen from the ashes, that talent being Time of Need. After many bug fixes and a sizable buff, Time of Need now becomes a very good option in Mythic Plus. Time of Need interacts with buffs that we give to a Living Flame like Life Force Mender, Call of Ysera, and now our Season 4 4-piece Life Spark. Time of Need will be replacing either Energy Loop or Rewind CDR. Energy Loop gets further pushed out due to our returning but reworked Season 4 set. So what does our Season 4 set do? Community spoke, and our Season 1 tier set has returned, with a few changes and buffs. Our 2-piece Empower spells increase the healing of Reversion by 50% for 8 seconds. This makes Reversion a very strong contender for our Echo consumption. This tied along with Grace Period makes Reversion heal for quite a decent chunk. However, the undisputed, most missed, most asked for portion of our tier set is back, and better than ever, our 4-piece. Reversion ticks have a 2.5% chance to increase the healing and damage of Living Flame by 50% and make it an instant cast. This stacks up to twice. This, in combination with our Reversion being a core part of the spec, makes for more responsive gameplay and very large numbers. Living Flame has been buffed by about 40% since Season 1, and with our 4 set returning in an even better form, this is very good news for all players.
Our Season 4 talent tree looks very similar to our Season 3 tree. Let's go through a few nodes and we'll talk through why they're so essential. Our center column here is our DPS. We're mostly interested in Life Force Mender, which is a big increase to our Living Flame damage and healing. It's about 25%. We tend to use it as a DPS button a lot more than a healing button, but improving our single target healing is a pretty nice bonus. Life Giver's Flame allows us to use Fire Breath as a surprisingly strong AoE healing button, particularly with Leaping Flames in the class tree. Life Force Mender also has particularly good synergy with our new Tierset, which gives us 50% stronger Living Flames on a proc. We'll take Lifebind and Emerald Communion to unlock powerful combo plays, where we put Lifebind on the entire party and heal them to full, several times over 5 seconds. Down the bottom right of the tree, we have the recently buffed Time of Need, which takes the place of Energy Loop from Season 3. It's a minor improvement, but the clone does tend to save a few lives through a key, particularly if you're still new. And then at the very bottom we have Stasis, which takes a little bit of time to get used to, but is one of our strongest healing cooldowns. It can be used in a bunch of flexible ways, which we'll cover in the playstyle section of the guide. Grace Period increases all of our healing by 15% on targets with Reversion, which is going to be the entire party during any serious damage. It also stacks if you have 2 Reversions on a target for a 32% total gain. In our class tree, we've got a little bit more flexibility. These are the kind of locked-in nodes, the non-negotiables. You'll often have to take a utility node in order to handle the affixes for the week. So you'll take nodes like Sleepwalk and Overawe. When we need those, we'll take the point out of Enkindled and grab whichever we need. Twin Guardian is an exceptional life-saving tool that takes a little bit of getting used to. I'd recommend starting with it in your build and practicing it a lot. It's one of the strongest buttons in your kit. We'll add a macro for it in the video description to make it easier to use.
In Season 4, our gameplay looks relatively similar to what we are currently doing in Season 3. Just now our Reversions are healing more, and we have some meaty Living Flames to cast as well. Generally speaking, you'll be keeping Reversions up on all 5 targets through Echo or Temporal Anomaly. This not only applies Grace Period to make all your healing increase, but it also has the added bonus of proccing a 4 set Life Spark. With Life Spark, we have a few choices based on our current situation. Life Spark can be used for just generic damage, but there's combos to be made as well, with Leaping Flames talented, if you max rank your Fire Breath as you should be, all your Leaping Flames on your next cast of Living Flame are modified by any buff you currently have. There's some nuance to this. A general rule of thumb is just to cast it at the enemy, especially if you're combining this with Call of Ysera. This is for healing only. This does two key important things. On trash packs, it does a lot of damage. However, on boss fights, this can be used as a means to top your entire group instantly. There is situations where it will be okay to use your Life Spark procs to save somebody, but generally speaking, damage first. Let your other heals like your Dream Breath, Spirit Bloom, and Reversions take care of healing. Speaking of healing, use Dream Breath for heavy overtime healing. Make sure to always use your Verdant Embrace first for Call of Ysera buff. Use Spirit Bloom at max rank for burst healing on your group. Make sure to always max rank it unless you need the healing to save somebody instantly. Finally, use your Verdant Embrace for very large and long damage events in combination with Emerald Communion via Lifebind. You can also use Spirit Bloom on yourself during Lifebind as well for multiple large healing instances through the Lifebind. If you still need even more after that, throwing a Living Flame onto yourself, especially with Life Spark, can transfer a lot of healing through a Lifebind. When damage gets heavy, we have three main cooldowns: Stasis, Emerald Communion, and Rewind. For Stasis, the best combo for most situations will be Dream Breath, Spirit Bloom, followed by Temporal Anomaly. Make sure you use your Verdant Embrace before starting your Stasis or releasing it to buff your Dream Breath. Your Stasis should be generally planned to cover 2 large damage events or be used to cover areas of healing so you continue to DPS. Emerald Communion will be used on the biggest damage events and transferred through Lifebind. This will do extreme amounts of healing for 5 seconds and get you through almost any mechanic in the game. It's also relatively easy to ramp as well. Temporal Anomaly or Manual Echoes in the whole group, Verdant Embrace, hit Emerald Communion. Rewind is similar to Emerald Communion as in it's powerful, but it's more of a reactive cooldown. It excels when your group is taking extremely heavy rot that things like Dream Breath and Spirit Bloom just won't keep up with. Example being during Electrical Storm from the second boss in Nokud, the Raging Tempest. It can also be used if you just need to catch up before another large damage event. We have a fourth cooldown that is exceptional in Mythic Plus, Zephyr. Zephyr makes you take 20% less AoE damage for 8 seconds. This applies to everybody in your party. This can help mitigate large hits on your group like Blazing Hammer from Forgemaster Goric and Neltharis. For damage, we'll be using Fire Breath on cooldown for large amounts of upfront damage and healing through the talent Lifegiver's Flame. After that, using Deep Breath on CD for large AoE packs, and past that, using Living Flame as much as possible.
Your most powerful stat as Preservation is Intellect, which means there's a real priority on equipping your highest item level gear in most cases. After you've done that, you'll prioritize Crit and Haste in Mythic Plus as a strong, all-round damage and healing combo. Mastery is still a slightly stronger stat for healing, and if you're struggling, there's nothing wrong with equipping a little more of it. You'll also get a decent amount from your Tierset and Seal of Filial Duty ring. The focus on Haste and Crit this season is mostly driven by our new Tierset, which puts a large emphasis on reversion and particularly the number of reversion ticks we get. By grabbing a bunch of both, we'll get long-lasting reversions and a ton of Life Spark procs, which we can flexibly use for both damage and healing. Haste also offers some nice quality of life in Mythic Plus, since it helps you react more quickly to damage and unexpected scenarios. Keep in mind there are no specific percentages you need to hit. Nothing special happens at 10, 20 or 30% haste. Stats are also a small part of your throughput, and a slightly worse loadout on paper won't stop you doing a plus 10 or even plus 20 key. Equipping your highest item level gear will get you most of the way there. For help with specific gear loadouts, visit QE Live, which we'll leave a link to in the description. You have a bit of choice when it comes to trinkets this season. We can broadly break trinkets down into 3 categories. First, all-rounder trinkets that increase both our healing and damage, like Ominous Chromatic Essence, Incarnate Icon, and Screaming Black Dragon Scale. These are great choices for 99% of the player base. The next 2 categories tend to be hyper-specific to hierarchies, and while we'll talk about them briefly, you can skip this section if you're not already very confident in your ability to keep your group alive. If you have all trinkets available, I'd recommend Ominous Chromatic Essence and Broodkeeper's Promise. The second category is Tech Trinkets. These aren't usually very good for general play, but they can solve specific problems you might run into as your keys get higher. Examples for this season are Ward of Faceless Ire, which gives one target a massive shield. That can help if you're running into mechanics that one-shot players, where adding healing isn't as good as increasing the size of the hit they can take. The third category is Damage Trinkets. Examples are Balarelos, Umbrelskel's Fractured Heart, and Tome of Unstable Power. There's technically a fourth category, Bad Trinkets. Blossom of Amedrasil, Kyraka's Searing Embers, and Smouldering Seedling fit in here, but the list is long. The dungeons themselves have very few good healing trinkets this season. If you're not intending on raiding, then you'll aim for trinkets like Water's Beating Heart and Spoils of Nelthuris, or a DPS trinket like Umbrelskel's Fractured Heart, until you can spend a bullion on one. Note though that raid trinkets are much more powerful this season. You can get a lot more information on trinkets at questionablyepic.com/live. We'll put a link in the description. There's a trinket graph that'll show how each compares, and a deep dive section to tell you when you might wear something that's a little more niche. Bullions are a special type of currency you'll get in Season 4 that lets you buy any special effect item from the past 3 seasons. You'll get a bullion every week, but items will cost you 2, which means you're likely to get your first bullion item 2 weeks in. Our choice here is pretty straightforward. First, if you have it, you'll want to upgrade Nezuro, our legendary weapon. Nezuro is incredibly powerful, and upgrading it is a high priority. For your second bullion, or your first if your legendary luck was similar to mine, is one of the 2 special effect rings from Vault of the Incarnates. Your choice here is split into the healing ring, Seal of Filial Duty, and the damage ring, Seal of Diona's Chosen. You'll probably want to wear both in Mythic Plus by the end of the season, but for now I'd recommend Seal of Filial Duty. It's a big survivability increase. For your third bullion, you can either buy the ring you didn't already buy, or you can grab a priority trinket. By this point in the season you should have a lot of items already, so you can base your choice on what has dropped for you so far. Good trinket choices include Ominous Chromatic Essence and Broodkeeper's Promise.
As for embellishments, we have a few choices here. If we are looking for pure DPS, you should be using the Shadow Flame armor patches. If you are looking for overall group utility of buffing your DPS and yourself, the Sandsock Con Pants and Verdant Tether on a ring will give your team a very respectable amount of versatility, which is very valued in Mythic Plus. If you are a raider or are just looking for personal gain, Adaptive Dracothist Arm Guards and Venom Step Stompers will be your top 2, with Lariat falling slightly behind the Stompers. Now we have some frequently asked questions. Do we heal with Living Flame now? Living Flame still isn't going to be our main source of healing. The only time you're realistically going to heal with Living Flame is when we have our Season 4 4-piece proc of Life Spark. Question number 2. Can I go with Blossom's Focus Spell? If you're looking to have some fun, Blossoms can work. However, it'll never be recommended. It has many shortcomings when it comes to healing your group. It also doubles down on range and targeting restraints. Healing that hunter on the other side of the boss has never been harder. Sadly, it's just not versatile enough yet. Does it matter if I lifeline with TA echoes or manual echoes? It does make a difference if you lifeline with weaker temporal anomaly echoes. It significantly reduces the transfer rate of your lifeline. If you want the best chance of survival, manual echoes is the safest way. If you're just trying to catch up, TA is more than enough. Fourth question, do I need the legendary? The short answer is no, you do not need the legendary. However, the legendary is much better than any other weapon you can obtain in this game, including Carnalex the First Light, known as the Egg Staff. Carnalex, however, is your best alternative from the sheer amount of damage it does in a Mythic Plus setting. Final question, are we meta? There's a lot of factors that go into a meta, and I can't assure you that Prez will be meta. However, I can confidently say that Evoker will be back to how we were in Season 1, but better. We are a very strong versatile healer with heavy burst damage and healing, and some group utility. The spec is going to be quite enjoyable in Mythic Plus, and I'm very ready to be a part of it.
Thanks for watching. If you're looking for even more Evoker Guide content, links to the Wildhead and Icy Veins guides are in the description below. You're also welcome to join us in the Wormrest Temple Discord server. Cheers.